Imagine a paradise on Earth where tigers roam plateaus, savannas, and hills. And leopards descend down gorges and ravines. This paradise, with its famed vistas, exists on our planet and is called Panna Tiger Reserve, located in the Indian state of Madhya Pradesh. These unique emerald forests were declared a tiger reserve in 1993. Where vultures nest on sheer cliffs, where tigers swim across a stunning river with crocodiles in it, and a huge plethora of species exist in harmony. One of the most remarkably breathtaking jungles in the world. These jungles have scenes that take you back in time to Kipling's Jungle Book. The pristine Ken River meandering between cliffs and trees. The forest alive with an endless array of species. A forest where time has stood still, preserving human relics from the past when the forests were ruled by both man and beast, where Gond tribes walked and lived among animals in these deciduous forests, divided by stunning deep and colorful canyons and gorges created by ancient prehistoric volcanic eruptions. We have just to explore this paradise for ourselves and witness its magnificent flora and fauna, its glorious tigers that roam the famed plateau topography of Panna. Two young tiger queen sisters, P151 and P141, now independently rule part of the riverfront, slopes, and lower plateaus. P141 even has two cubs. Tigers of Panna exhibit typical tiger behavior of shyness, and we know that to truly appreciate the brilliance of a tiger, it would have to be seen against the backdrop of its kingdom habitat with the other brilliant wildlife species in it. This is one of the most fascinating stories in the world, where a magnificent mega-species, the tiger, was reintroduced in this beautiful Panna, also known as the Emerald Forests. We begin our exploration in areas around the lifeline of Panna, the Ken River. Close to the river is the gorge called Panna Seha. In fact, this is the northernmost point of Tigris P141's territory and the southernmost point of P151's territory. Panna Seha is known for its watering hole, attracting every animal in the vicinity and from far away. A Langur clan has stationed itself close by. They are also called the Hanuman Langur, or the leaf-eating Langur, as their distended stomachs have the right enzymes to digest the toughest of leaves found in Indian forests. Like all life, Langurs need shelter, water and food all year round, and Panna Seha has it all. Its plethora of trees leafing and fruiting at different times. This troop has young ones from the earlier season, and many of the troop's females need the best nourishment, as they will give birth soon. Panna Seha becomes a meeting zone as all the animals arrive one by one to drink, especially the many species of birds in the area, including the colorful rufous tree pie. We scan the banks of the Ken River from the river itself. The river is stunning, with an array of trees framing it on both sides. Ken River is the lifeline of the Bundelkhand region of the Indian state of Madhya Pradesh, supporting human and animal life alike. It is one of the cleanest rivers of India, as it passes through many forested areas, including through Panna Tiger Reserve for at least 55 kilometers. It is just the dream river setting one could imagine. Peacocks resting on rocky outcrops, oriental darter, the list goes on. Even the herbivore come down for some water. But they have to be careful. If big cats rule the land, the crocodiles are rulers of the water. Panna Tiger Reserve supports a healthy population of marsh crocodile or muggers. These prehistoric-looking reptiles are cold-blooded and need to bask in the sun to warm their bodies. They may look heavy when they're resting, but can move at lightning speed to ambush prey or away from perceived danger. They are truly the masters of the water and glide through it as they dive down into the Ken River. The cliffs and rocky outcrops are perfect habitat where a leopard could hide. We scan the cliffs to see if we can come across a camouflaged leopard. We are quite confident that at least one could be peering down at us. P151 is also the queen of this whole stretch of the river and is known to walk along its rock-cladded banks. She even goes over the rocks, where two old hunting lodges from a time gone by still stand. There are no signs of the big cats, but the stunning river has enthralled us. The river is full of life, both big and small, and sets off a feeding chain from a range of animals. Apart from being a gift to the wildlife here, the river is central to the economy and life of people in the Bundelkhand region. The rich greenery of the agricultural lands in the region speaks volumes of the gift of water and fertility the river provides. Most human civilizations have flourished because of the rivers and water bodies along which they were established. And like all the rivers of the world, the Ken River shows us how it has benefited the lands around it. It is crucial that rivers and the forests and springs from where rivers are born and fed should be preserved. Morning brings with it the excitement of a new day. A mirage of stripes breaks the deep vegetation. A tiger. It is Queen P151 in action. She is stalking a deer. She will only move when he looks away. What an introduction to the tigers of Panna, while one of the queens is at her wildest. Only striking at that opportune moment will count. She will carefully inch closer, focused on that one goal. As long as the stag does not see, smell, or hear her. But what if another animal does? Even jungles have whistleblowers. These are our first shots of P151. We are mesmerized by her beauty and the way tigers make Indian jungles come alive. But one thought just cannot escape our minds. She may not have even been here the way events had turned out about a decade ago. At the turn of the new century, Panna, with its dream landscape, had more than 40 tigers. But then the alarm bells rang. Tigers were disappearing in Panna due to poaching and other human-induced issues. By 2009, what researchers had feared became the sinister truth. Arguably for a single tiger, Panna Tiger Reserve had lost the jewels in its crown, its tigers. Panna's valleys, gorges, rivers and plateaus now seemed doomed to be devoid of the majestic roars of tigers forever. A huge cloud of despair hung over Panna National Park and its forest department. Was this truly the end of the road for this fabulous paradise? Could Panna once again have tigers? Then entered one man who would forever change the way the world looked at conservation and reintroduction of mega-carnivores. A man whose name would forever be etched in conservation's Hall of Gratitude and respectfully called Murthy Sir. An audacious plan had been made to bring two tigresses, T1 and T2, from other reserves into Panna.
T1 and T2 were not exactly part of the tiger introduction package. They were brought in basically to offset the skewed sex ratio in favor of males. By the time the females entered, T1 and T2, obviously one from Bandhavgarh and another from Kanha. T2 is from Kanha. They entered, whatever available male population was there, they moved out. So then the actual issue of reintroduction came into picture. I entered the scene in the month of May 2009, but the park was declared zero of tigers in the month of January 2009. I entered for reintroducing the tigers there into Panna. Earlier there were only males, females were not there, but by the time I entered the scene there were no males, only females were there. So without a male partner, having to have full population, family of tigers cannot happen. So the first important most issue on technical front is to bring in a male, get him settled inside the park and then ensure that there is a harmony among this new population and they procreate. That was the second technical task.
A male tiger, T3, from Pench Tiger Reserve was introduced into Panna as he later mated with tigress T1. April 16, 2010 marked a landmark date in global tiger conservation. Panna's introduced tigress T1 gave birth to her first litter of male cubs, a celebratory day as the team's months of intense hard work was paying off. Species extinction, even locally, is planet Earth's most pressing issue, and Panna's team has begun their march in creating history in this area, being well on a path that would give the world a model for reviving a mega-species like the tiger. 6 months later was cause for further celebration as the second tigress T2 also gave birth to her first litter of cubs and eventually went on to mother the highest number of cubs amongst the introduced tigresses. As of today, T1's boys P112 and P111 from her first litter still rule parts of Panna. T1 had 2 more litters of male cubs. She then seemed to know that she was getting older and needing her own daughters to replace her, and her 4th and 5th litters were girls. Today, all 4 of her girls have carved out their own territories from their mother T1's territory, while their mother has been pushed out by them and has settled well in buffer forests outside the park. Young and mobile, T1's daughter, P151, is one tigress that keeps the trackers on their toes. She constantly roams her newfound territory. The young queen has not yet established a fixed movement pattern, earning her the nickname Manchali, or as her strong mind pleases. The tigers in Panna are very shy, but 151's boldness and vigor should allow us to spend time with her. But with her sister, the other tigress, P141, it has been a very different story. We traverse the park, but as yet have not gotten a glimpse of this tigress. It is still early spring, and the plateaus of Panna should be cooler and full of wildlife. From the northern side, a steep slope called Chuai has to be climbed to get to the lower plateau called Hinata Plateau. A family of Chinkara are traversing Hinata Plateau's grasslands. Characterized by their spiral horns, these are the only gazelles in India. They are generally found in family groups or just mother and fawn. Panna's plateaus can get extremely dry in the summers, and these gazelles can go without water for long periods, deriving hydration from the plants they eat. They swallow food and bring it back to their mouth to chew again. Like the Chinkara, other small species called chosinga, or four-horned antelope, also survive well on these grassland plateaus. Chosingas are one of India's 3 pure antelope species, and as their name suggests, chosinga males have 4 horns on their head. These small antelopes are very shy and skittish, scattering away at even the slightest notion of danger. In most forests, they are a treat to come across, as they are rarer sights than tigers, leopards, and even wild dogs. Seeing 1 or 2 chosingas once in a way would be considered great. But Panna's Hinata Plateau has a good number of these antelopes. Water is scarcer here during the dry months, but Chinkaras and chosingas can survive the dryness and become perfect targets for Panna's big cats. And where these small browsers roam, we know exactly what would follow. Panna's plateaus are known for their wandering leopards. This leopard's home is in a perfect habitat, the slopes between the Hinata Plateau and the river. The tall grass of the plateau are perfect to sneak up on prey. It disappears in a flash. Further ahead, we come across tiger pug marks. This is Tigress P141's territory, and it could be her. Delighted to see signs of her, we stake it out. Even as the day comes to a close, she doesn't reveal herself. The sheer biodiversity in Panna, the time spent with tigresses P151 and the signs of her sister P141 has really got us thinking about the success of the dynamic leaps that were taken by the Forest Department during and after the introduction of the tigers in 2009. Protection and monitoring have to be strong and constant, but pressure from humans living in and around the park had played a huge role in the disappearance of the tigers from Panna. The department had already begun tackling these by relocating villages from inside the park, but there was a surprising irony to the relocation.
When Panna debacle happened, on one side, the people and villages were getting relocated. On second side, tigers were also getting decimated, which was not expected around. The natural thing that was expected around that time was the tiger population should grow. So, but at the same time, the total reintroduction issue became to great extent more viable and more effective because of those villages getting relocated. So, we had a very undisturbed inviolate habitat around.
The important step ahead was to rehabilitate communities that were a big risk to wildlife and to educate them. This had already been tried earlier too, but now the department brainstormed how it could be done more effectively for more permanent results. One of the primary communities of forest dwellers are called the Plateaus. They are a hunter-gatherer community from centuries, and the only life they know is how to live in and off the jungles. But with the debacle in Panna and the stricter perception of the forest department by the communities, who would be willing to step in and take the huge efforts required in building an emotional bridge of trust with this community? A connect that could inspire the Plateaus to leave behind their centuries-old way of life and find a life that did not involve hunting wildlife. That is when an organization called the Last Wilderness Foundation, in collaboration with the Forest Department, dedicated themselves to winning this community's trust. We meet the Foundation's director, Vidya Venkatesh, and field director Idraban Singh Bundila, who have been working towards using the Plateaus' hunting experience for conservation rather than hunting.
Pardhi basically जो वर्ड है वो संस्कृत का पारद से बना है। पारद का अर्थ होता है हंटिंग, शिकार खेलना। तो ब्रिटिश टाइम पे इनको एक अपराधी जाति के तौर पे देखा जा रहा था।
The nature of their activities made the Parthis disappear deep into the forests whenever they were approached by outsiders. How would the Foundation reach out to them? They eventually overcame this by going through some villager elders that the Parthis were willing to interact with.
बताते रहते थे कि अपन लोग को पढ़ाई लिखाई में करना है, ना ये कोई पकड़ेंगे, ना कोई धकड़ेंगे, ना कुछ करेंगे, खाली शिक्षा में डालने को बता रहे हैं। ऐसे कर करके विश्वास कर करके लिए गए हम लोग।
Even when the initial connect was made with the Parthis, it would work in the long run only if the community could earn a living outside the forests.
ये जो कम्युनिटी है, इनके पास बहुत एक सुंदर स्किल है, कला है, जिसमें वो जानवरों के बारे में और जंगल के बारे में जानकारी रखते हैं, जड़ी बूटी के बारे में जानकारी रखते हैं। कई सारी चीज़ें हैं जो उनके पास जो नॉलेज है वो बहुत से अन्य लोगों के पास नहीं रहता है। स्पॉटेड डक करता है। ये मुनि आप बोल रहे थे क्या?
The foundation combined the centuries-old skills of the Parthis and linked it with the scientific knowledge to present a program for tourists called Walk with the Parthis.
तो ये कार्यक्रम जो वॉक विद द पारधी नाम से शुरू हुआ है, ये इसी इंटेंशन उद्देश्य से शुरू हुआ है कि यहाँ के जो नॉलेज है इसको भी हम कंटिन्यू बरकरार रखें आगे तक, आगे की पीढ़ी में भी, और टूरिस्ट को भी पता चले और टूरिस्ट को ये इसका मज़ा भी ले सकते हैं।
We spent a few afternoons experiencing the Walk with the Parthis program.
सर टाइगर का है।
तो ये पूरा मतलब है ना,
ये लिपड़ का है सर। ऐसा लंगर चढ़ा है सर, तो इसके लिए ऐसा चढ़ के गया है। ये ड्रोपिंग है सर। ये लील गाय का है। ये अलग अलग नहीं करेगा, जहाँ पे इसका वो रहेगा ड्रोपिंग करने का उधर ही करेगा।
ये लोग कई सारे जानवरों की बोली जो है वो अपनी भाषा में वो रिपीट करते हैं, मिमिक करते हैं। कई बार जानवर भी आ जाते हैं उनकी बोली से। पारधी जो नोमैडिक ट्राइब है और ये घुमक्कड़ जाति होने के कारण घूमते रहते हैं। हमारा सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज था कि यहाँ पर रहेंगे कि नहीं ये लोग, यदि टूरिस्ट आते हैं तो रहेंगे कि नहीं।
Since the past few years, they have been working on getting the Parthis to send their children to school so that their futures can be more secure. The efforts have once again got huge support from the present field director, Mr. K.S. Badoria, who is taking forward the legacy of conservation work with his strong belief and continuous village awareness programs that if people themselves are the protectors of wildlife, then wildlife could find the greatest allies in them.
टाइगर रिजर्व के बफर क्षेत्र में जो 16 गांव हैं, उन गांव के लोगों की बैठक ली, उन्हें समझाया, और उनमें से हमने प्रत्येक गांव से 30 लोग लाके, और हमने हिनौता हमारा सेंटर है, वहाँ पे हमने उन्हें मोटिवेट किया, उनको पूरा समझाया और पन्ना टाइगर रिजर्व क्षेत्र का भ्रमण कराया और उन्हें वन एवं वन प्राणी महत्व को उनको समझाया। उससे गांव वालों में बहुत अच्छा प्रभाव पड़ा।
इनके साथ हमने घुले मिले, हम इनको एज ए फैमिली मेम्बर एक ट्रस्ट बिल्डिंग ये सब किया। उनके बच्चे कभी जो छोड़ते नहीं थे, उनने बच्चे हमें दे के स्कूल में एडमिशन कराए, बच्चे पढ़ रहे हैं। जब से ये प्रोग्राम स्टार्ट किया है 2008-9 जब भी से हम लोग, तो आज तक सिंगल केस, सिंगल इंसिडेंट नहीं है कहीं भी टाइगर पोचिंग का।
These outstanding results are an ode to the tremendous efforts of the Forest Department and its support to the work of organizations like the Last Wilderness Foundation. My name is Sumesh Lekhi, a wildlife filmmaker and cinematographer. In all my years spent amidst fabulous wildlife, exotic locations and forest communities, moments like these with the Parthis truly stand out. Their lives chronicle actual change, and this model will have to continue to replicate throughout the globe. In the coming days, we look forward to visiting the Parthis in their villages and spend time with their kids when at school. On our way back, at the wetlands just outside Panna Tiger Reserve, the air is shattered by the trumpeting calls of a pair of saurus cranes. This pair is lustily engaging in their courtship display. They are engrossed in their ballet, giving us a chance to approach them and allowing us a unique glimpse into their intimate lives. In India, saurus cranes symbolize love and fidelity. Known to mate for life, these birds renew their vows in spectacular style, bowing and leaping, intent upon each other, all else forgotten. Our pair of saurus cranes has unwittingly intruded into the territory of a pair of red-wattled lapwings. Red-wattled lapwings, called titahari in Hindi, after their distinct call, are famous for their distraction tactics and will take on anything, real or imagined, which may disturb the integrity of their nesting territory. They dive-bomb intruders and harass them until the enemy beats a hasty retreat. Unnerved by the passionate tango of the massive cranes, the lapwings scream and dive at the unfazed pair, relentlessly attempting to evict the lovesick honeymooners from their territory. Even the shrill calls of the lapwings cannot distract our happy couple as they sway gracefully to avoid the incoming missiles. Saurus cranes are the tallest flying birds on Earth, and they exhibit grace even in flight, and while landing, display how birds inspire our aircrafts. Earlier, the pair had returned to the same nest and carefully repaired the nesting platform with mud, reeds, and roots. Now, a single egg glistens among the reeds in the nest. They protect the egg against the sun, turning it frequently so that their chick develops well, and the couple share their duties incubating the egg. Back at Panna Seha, sambar deer settle on the slippery rocks. With no signs of predators around, they take it easy and relax in the water. The deer depart to feed, leaving the waterhole to the Panna Seha langurs. Even while drinking, the youngsters have learnt to be alert and watch each other's back. They have to, as this is the time of day when the dominant male leopard of Panna Seha comes out for a drink. It is widely believed that the disappearance of tigers from Panna had given an advantage to these other big cats. Also called panthers, leopards seem to have established themselves and increased their numbers. But it is believed that with the return of the tigers to Panna, along with increased tiger movements, it could have made leopards shy or pushed some of them to disperse to other areas. But this notion is dispelled by Mr. Murthy.
My little more than 6 years tenure in Panna proves it is a false notion. Panthers were there without tigers, with tigers, and now they are more in numbers with tigers. There was a fear within me that there can be some cub killing by panthers of tigers, but it never happened. We have seen panthers getting killed on and off by tigers. There is a natural enmity between these two predators. To great extent, panthers are arboreal, tigers cannot be arboreal. So, the protection that was offered for tiger interaction as a whole for the entire park has given that extra protection even for the panthers also. So, they flourished. Rather, sighting of panthers became more higher after the tigers got established.
The dominant leopard of Panna Seha steps out. He is a large male called Scarface. Earlier, he had a scar over his left eye, and now he has a squint in his right. The scars being medals for his victories in hard-fought battles with other leopards. Today, he's not after the langurs. He's looking for bigger prey. The sambar deer have moved to the rocks and thick vegetation. He He sees them and stands still, blending into the forest, until the alert sambar look away. He moves slowly in their direction. Stalking as low as he can. The sambar start feeding. This is his chance, and he will get as close as possible. It is a game between the alert sambar and invisible leopard. He gets to striking distance. His cover was blown. The sambar run into the open. He moves on. He has a large territory to cover, and mating rights to 2 or 3 females. He had mated with one of them, and by big cat standards, he spends good time with his mates, even when they are not mating. As soon as one enters Panna Tiger Reserve, it is customary to pay respect to the shrine of Badami Baba, as it is believed only then the tigers reveal themselves. The legend of Panna's Badami Baba is from those bygone years when India was ruled by its Maharajas. These same jungles were their hunting ground. In those days, the kings of Panna took the Baba's blessings to beat the odds. Then, they would stake it out in one of the many hunting structures, including one called Pakagada that faces a rocky slope that harbors wildlife even today. Fortunately, those days of hunting are long gone. Spirits of animal and men alike have always been an integral part of India's jungle lore, and even here, it is believed that the spirit of Badami Baba still lives on as the guardian spirit of Panna, communicating with the animals, and his spirit would lead us to the tigers. These offerings are responded to immediately. India has an ancient connection with its forests and wildlife, and no one upholds these traditions more than India's tribes like the Gond tribes. The Gonds ruled and roamed central India's forests, including Panna. But their stories and even the ancient rock paintings made by them remain. We set out to explore the cliffs and overhangs within Panna Tiger Reserve in search of these paintings. We need to tread very carefully. We are heading into the very heart of the forest, where wildlife abounds. The rocky outcrops and overhangs are perfect hideouts for big cats like tigers, leopards, and their cubs. But undoubtedly, the riskiest would be an encounter with a sloth bear that are best left alone and far away. We carefully make our way through the forest. On reaching the rocks, we are in awe of their colors and expanse. Climbing the rocks, we realize how these shallow caves and outcrops were perfect stopovers for the ancient Gonds, and many centuries before us, the Gonds walked the same areas, depicting animals and even direction signs they left for their fellow tribesmen. Some of the paintings are high up on the ceiling and remind us of the special ingenuity and expression of art, which are the essence of being human. Gonds may have moved on, but their art lives on, even outside the forest areas. Today, central India is well known for Gond paintings, which are acclaimed internationally, allowing Gond artists to make a living in contemporary India. This art form is colorful and mostly inspired from everyday jungle life. They depict harmony in nature and how all life forms, including humans, are interconnected. The central character in many paintings is the revered Bengal tiger. For the pride of the Gunz tribes, too, it is great that Panna has got its tigers back. We are yet to see the second queen, P141, the tigress with cubs. Unlike P151's territory, we cannot access the river hangout areas of tigress P141's territory by boat, as a patch of rocks in the river stand in the way. There are no signs of P141, even from the road by the river. We head up towards her territory on the Hinata Plateau, climbing up the slopes of the colorful hill called Rangagati. These are sedimentary rocks encrusted with colorful stones and make up most of this hill and are also found in other areas of Panna. Apart from colorful conglomerates, there are other kinds of stones found here. Slate and shale are found near the water bodies, gorges, and rivers. Limestone and soapstone are also found here in abundance, suggesting that Panna once lay by the shores of an ancient floodplain. A large part of the Panna landscape was shaped by ancient volcanic eruptions that even created Panna's stunning canyons and gorges. After climbing Rangagati, we head to one such spectacular gorge called Dunhua Seha, which is at the southernmost point of P141's territory. During the rains, Dunhua Seha has a spectacular waterfall. But now, the dry season has begun, and the valley is drier. From a conservation point of view, Dunhua Seha is of great importance because of its stable population of the critically endangered long-billed vultures. The steep cliffs are perfect perches for these large birds. Their acute vision and good sense of smell help them locate a carcass. Vultures play the all-important role of cleaners of the ecosystem, consuming dead and decaying animals. They are masters of the glide, and their magnificence really comes out when they take off for the skies. As the sun rises and the air warms, they use the thermals to soar effortlessly in the sky, scanning the ground for feeding opportunities. The return of tigers in Panna has given the vultures more feeding opportunities. The day has gotten cooler, and like the Dunhua leopard, it is a time when tigers also get active. At the Hinata Plateau near Dunhua Seha, wildlife all around are preparing for the night. Jungles never fail to surprise. We finally see the second tigress, P141, comfortably cooling off in front of us. These days it is rare to see her on the plateau. She had 3 cubs till a few months back, but now only 2 cubs have survived, making her cautious to bring her cubs up to the plateau. She keeps her cubs near the river, as far as possible from any kind of danger. She leaves to survey her territory and for opportunities of a kill. This introduction could help us keep track of P141's movements and eventually her cubs. The Pipartola grasslands are in the center of the tigress with cubs P141's territory. This is spotted deer paradise, and they fill the grasslands in great numbers, spilling all the way to the tall emerald grass by the Ken River. The grasslands hold a huge variety of biodiversity, including birds. 2 varieties of francolin, the gray francolin and the more colorful painted francolin, roam these grasslands, and their shrieks ring through the grass. This gray francolin couple has a large brood, and they go about foraging through the grasses. A pair of painted francolins step out pecking at whatever they can find. Being alert has huge paybacks in the jungle, as these grasslands have hidden dangers. Predators, like leopards, can easily ambush birds. Tigers and leopards aren't the only cats that smaller wildlife at the grasslands have to worry about. Jungle cats are the true masters here. A jungle cat is out on a hunt and spots the francolins. And then spots a pair of doves too. Spoilt for choice, the cat hesitates for a moment and is discovered by the birds. The doves are off. The alarmed francolin, its feathers all spiked up now, keeps a tab on the jungle cat. Truly a case of a bird in hand is better than two in the bush. But the jungle cat will have to hunt. It's got a kitten to feed. These grasslands were originally part of a village called Pipertola, which was later relocated outside Panna Tiger Reserve. The vibrancy of this grassland shows how the shifting of villages out of the jungle areas helps a vast number of species make these habitats their home. There are no fresh tiger pug marks or even prey animal alarm calls at the grasslands. We traverse along the river to a bund that P141 crosses when she descends to the river from the northern side. The best chances of seeing apex predators in an underlying paradise like Panna would be to pay attention to what the jungle is telling us. Just then, a nilgai sounds the alarm, and there she is, P141. Her cubs are with her, a female and a male. This moment is celebratory as we are seeing the next generation of Panna's cubs, a direct acknowledgement of the reintroduction efforts of 2009. P141 descends to the river. The cubs follow her lead. Their mother is moving towards the island on the other side. The cubs take a dip in the river. The river area has a large prey base, and she is definitely looking to make a kill. We have spent many years filming tigers mostly up close in dense areas. But this part of the river could give us a refreshing bird's-eye view of this tiger family, and we begin referring to this stretch as the Twin Junction Arena. Seeing the third generation of tigers after the reintroduction of tigers in Panna gives a true perspective of the pioneering efforts and the subsequent protection.
Initial 3.5 years, it was quite an exciting journey. Initial 6 months, we were doing a big inquiry around for ourselves. What went wrong? How to move on? Is there any anchor point that we can move on? When we have recolored the tiger, T3, when he came from Pench, that time we, all of us who were there at the Panna holding the charge, we all touched his feet and said, "Ve Panna ko abad kar do." So it's like, matlab, please, you are the only person who can repopulate Panna. Please do that work. That is our prayer, of course, for the T3 who was in a state of sedation. But this gentleman, after staying inside the park for 10 days, then he moved out. That was the real challenge for every one of us. Finally, almost say 12 days, we were not having any signals of the tiger, except for very fluke signals here and there. We requested everybody put the posters around, telling that if anybody gets any indication of a tiger, they should report to the nearest police people or forest people.
It would eventually be almost 30 days of grueling search operations by Mr. Murthy and more than 70 team members to locate T3, as the tiger's homing instincts were taking him back towards Pench Tiger Reserve, crossing perilous human areas on the way. The team worked tirelessly with their field director, spending many nights resting in the tracking vehicles.
Then we got information, sir, somebody has seen a tiger there around. Immediately my teams ran to the spot. They could get the signals. Strictly speaking, it was a music for every one of us because we were starved of those signals. Because signals, what does it mean? Signals mean tiger is in your radar and he is safe. And then he being safe is very important. That too when you are not in your territory.
By the time the tiger was located, he'd walked an astonishing distance, more than 400 kilometers in 30 days.
When we captured the T3 to bring him back to Panna, we were damn sure that day he will be caught. A successful dot was placed around 6:30 in the night, which otherwise science does not allow. We discussed all these things beforehand. I said this is not a tranquilization operation, this is a rescue operation. If you are going to leave this tiger around, it is going to die, sure, because local conditions are not very favorable. So if we are going to bring him back, there is a 50% chance that the tiger reintroduction project and purpose of tranquilizing this tiger from Pench and bringing him from there to here, at least the purpose will be served 50%. If there is a probability of even 1% where it succeeds, then it is a 100% success. That's how Panna became a 100% success. So having male alive and then having him harmonized with the rest of the 2 female tigers is the real responsibility that was there with the Panna team management at that point of time. So those things which grace of everybody including Almighty, we are able to achieve those very real tough tasks. I should only thank the tigers and Panna team for all that thing. Jai.
At the Twin Junction Arena, P141 has left her cubs behind to mark her territory and look for prey. P141 even crosses the river towards our side. Asian king vultures arrive. P141 may have made a kill. This time, she returns to the island to call out to her cubs. The cubs are at an age where they are more independent. The male cub arrives, followed by the female. P141 hurries to cross the river towards the kill. The cubs are reluctant to swim across because of the lurking crocs. They decide on the narrowest point, but the river current is strongest over here. With the prospects of crocs around, the cubs make their intentions clear, snarling at the water. P141 wants them to hurry so that she can lead them to the kill before more vultures arrive. Mother and hunger are strong forces, and one of the cubs takes that leap of faith, swimming against the strong current. The other follows. The cubs have just pushed another bar towards adulthood. With the tigers approaching, some of the king vultures head to the trees, while the heat forces the others to the stony banks for a drink. Asian kings are quite magnificent to look at. They are dark brown, with the sun showing off the darker feathers. They don't need to kill prey, so their talons are blunt. Not too long ago, they were found throughout India, but are now found only in isolated pockets. Like the long-billed vultures, these striking birds are also critically endangered. And we are lucky even to be seeing these Asian kings and the long-billed vultures. Vultures in India were brought to near extinction in the last 2 decades alone. Almost 99% of the vulture population in India has disappeared. But how do birds that are built so tough get critically endangered? We talked to Mr. Dilsher Khan, who is credited for spearheading the vulture awareness and revival plan in Madhya Pradesh, the Indian state that Panna is part of.
हमारा घर रेलवे लाइन के किनारे था, तो वहाँ जब कोई जानवर ठोकर से घायल हो जाता, मर जाता था, तो वहाँ काफ़ी वल्चर देखे जाते। जब वल्चर वो धीरे धीरे कुछ कम होने लगे, तो मुझको लगा कि वल्चर को कुछ ऐसा क्या हो रहा है जो ये कम हो रहे हैं।
Then, internationally, there was a breakthrough. The culprit was a painkiller called diclofenac that was given to cattle.
डाइक्लोफेनेक जैसे इंजेक्शन लगाए और 1 हफ्ते के अंदर अगर वो जानवर मर गया और वल्चर ने खाया, तो उसकी किडनी सफ़ेद पड़ जाती है, जाम खराब हो जाती है। और मरने का सिम्टम ये है कि जैसे वो किसी जानवर को खाएगा तो शाम को बैठ जाएगा और वो गर्दन नीचे करके बैठ जाता है, फिर उसको खाना बंद कर देता, बैठे बैठे वो नीचे गिर जाएगा। मेरे पास ना कोई डिग्री थी, ना कोई हमने इसकी शिक्षा ली थी। हमको तो सिर्फ एक लक्ष्य था, इस प्रजाति को विलुप्त होने से बचाना।
Then began the hard task of convincing the farmers to not use diclofenac and shift to the much safer replacement called meloxicam.
सब लोगों को लग रहा था कि ये सबसे गंदा बर्ड्स है, इसकी कोई अहमियत नहीं है, लेकिन हमको इसकी अहमियत का पता चलता था कि अगर ये नहीं होंगे तो पारिस्थितिक तंत्र का एक हिस्सा है चैन, वो टूट जाएगी। अगर ख़त्म हो गया, विलुप्त हो गया, तो फिर सफाई कौन करेगा। 2000 तक 99% वल्चर ख़त्म हो गए, तो एक जीवन का मकसद बना लिया। इसमें मेरी पत्नी भी साथ दे रही थी, वो मेरे साथ जंगल जाती थी, वहाँ सबसे पहले लोगों के लिए जागरूकता लाई, वेटरनरी डॉक्टर से मिले, डाइक्लोफेनेक पूरी तरह बंद कराया, जो दवाई की दुकानें थीं उनमें पूरी तरह हटवाया, उनको बताया कि ये बैन हो चुका है। फिर जो जानवर मर जाते थे और अगर गलती से डाइक्लोफेनेक लगाया जाता था तो उसको ज़मीन में गड़वा देते, जिसमें डाइक्लोफेनेक नहीं होता था उनको एक खुली जगह में डाल देते थे। आज मध्य प्रदेश सरकार पहली सरकार है भारत में जो वल्चर पे गिनती गणना कराती है। ने वल्चर की खोज की तो देखा कि पूरे मध्य प्रदेश में 2000 वल्चर, आज 2019 में 9000 वल्चर है। तो ये एक अच्छी तादाद है। 17 साल लगा वल्चर को 2000 से 9000 पहुंचने में।
When it comes to increased vulture population, the Indian state of Madhya Pradesh has vultures in forests and also in urban areas. This is the historic town of Orchha. This urban expanse is famous for its increasing vulture populations. Located at the banks of the Plateaus River, it is a town of ancient temples, tombs and palaces, once part of the famous kingdom of the Bundela kings. Built in the 16th century, these monuments are now being hailed as havens for their new rulers, the increasing vulture populations. The tombs of the Maharajas now shelter vulture families. Long-billed vulture mate for life, and many of the couples occupy these tombs, building their nests under the safety of the canopy structures called the royal chhatris. Some of the nests already have chicks in them, and vultures can be doting parents. We search the town for more vultures around its historical monuments. Nature and wild animals are deeply ingrained in Indian art and philosophy. Even in the historical town of Orchha, they find prominence in the engravings and paintings. One cannot imagine a world without vultures, as they complete the picture of a vibrant ecosystem. But states across India hardly have any vulture left, and the states have a lot of work to do in this area. During our study, we discover 8 new precious vulture nests that had not been counted in the census before. It's not just long-billed vultures. 2 pairs of endangered Egyptian vultures have also settled near Orchha's tombs, finding them safe enough to build a nest. Soon, they will start a family. Back at the Panna Tiger Reserve, Egyptian vultures, like the other vulture species, take to the sky over the famous Dundwa Gorge looking for food, especially around areas dominated by the predators. The queen in the North Panna, P151, is young. She has got the grit and spunk that a tiger needs to rule prime territory for a long haul. Even with young cubs, the dominant cub makes sure the others understand who is boss. Even with P151 and P152, when they were still with their mother, a similar game of dominance was repeated. P151 eventually pushed both her sister and the ruling queen, their mother T1, out of the Northern Territory. Till then, P151 had not been collared, exploring her large territory, partnering the lessons learnt from her mother with her own instinct. But she would occasionally move towards human areas, especially a farm area next to Panna's Madla Gate. For the safety of both tigers and villagers, she was eventually collared by the department. Her movements were being tracked. Then it was discovered that she was spending time with 2 male tigers one of them being the dashing one-eyed male tiger, Kancha. Kancha had been coming to the farm area near the park's boundaries, and 151 would spend time with him there. Could 151's union with the male tigers result in more hope for Panna? It had been more than 3 months since then, and we noticed that her belly and nipples are swollen. Is she carrying babies? Tigresses reach a reproductive age around 36 months, but she's only 30 months old. If true, it would be the ultimate test of the new Panna being a non-stressful habitat for tigers. The next few days would reveal more as she heads towards an oasis in her kingdom called Judy. Judy holds water till the end of summer, a perfect hangout for all kind of wildlife, especially kingfishers, including the seldom-seen stork-billed kingfisher. A pair of white-breasted kingfisher have also made Judy their home, owing to availability of water, which holds a good amount of fish and other food. Judy's waters also have succulent aquatic grass growing in them that attracts sambar deer. With prey, water, and air conditioning, Judy is the perfect summer hangout for a tiger, and P151 could be bringing in renewed hope for North Panna. Talking of new beginnings, after the heartening time spent with the Party community earlier, we'd wanted to visit them at their settlements and their children while they were at school. The Parties are a forest-dwelling tribe that have been dependent on hunting for centuries. For conservation of the tiger and forests, it was necessary to get this tribe to stop hunting as a means of livelihood. Since the last few years, the organization Last Wilderness Foundation, along with the Forest Department, has been working towards winning the trust of this community and directing their skills towards conservation. But for more permanent results, it is also necessary to educate the next generation. We get a rousing welcome and a lot of curious and excited glances. Some of the students here are from the Party community, and they seem to have settled well into their school days. But with the Party's wariness, convincing them to send their children to school was not an easy task.
पारधी बच्चों को शिक्षित करने का जो अभियान है वो ऐसे शुरू हुआ 2007 में। एक पहले हमने 5 बच्चे जोड़े, फिर 15 बच्चे जोड़े, फिर ऐसे कर करके महीना हफ्ते भर में हम लोग जाते थे गांव में, जहां जंगल में इन लोगों के साथ में।
पहले जब आए थे बच्चे तो ना पढ़ते थे, लड़ते झगड़ते थे, और पहले से अब बेहतर है, बहुत बेहतर है। बच्चे पढ़ रहे हैं, बराबर स्कूल भी जा रहे हैं।
The new generation of a community that previously poached for their livelihood are now looking towards conservation and even express their love for the tiger.
रेंजर बनना चाहती हूँ। मेरे सबसे अच्छे सब्जेक्ट हिंदी है और मैं बड़ी होकर के पुलिस ड्यूटी ज्वाइन करना चाहती हूँ।
The children have their dreams and aspirations in place. More and more Party families are now wanting to live in the settlements that the Last Wilderness Foundation helped set up for them. They have now moved from their forest homes into concrete houses. We meet the village chieftain, who is also the community's healer. The foundation's Indrabhan Singh tells the chieftain that there is a medicine and healing event coming up and he should participate. These are some of the traditional skills that the Last Wilderness Foundation wants the Parties to showcase to help them integrate with mainstream society. They are further encouraged towards more sources of livelihood, like making traditional accessories. But the biggest sign of their integration into society is that they have even voted in the recent elections. From living in the fringes of civilization to taking part in India's future, the Parties have come a long way, integrating into a life that does not involve hunting. What we have witnessed with the time spent with the parties is a huge acknowledgement to the efforts of the foundations and departments involved. With this path-breaking model, the seeds seem to have been sown for a conservation model that could sensitize people from all across the globe towards their natural world. It is time for the harvest. As the villagers harvest the crop, some animals raid their fields. It is a group of wild nilgai. Nilgai are the largest antelope in Asia. They are generally found in sparse forests and grasslands. Apart from forests, they are also seen frequently near agricultural areas. The bulls are grayish-blue in color, and the females fawn in color. Both sexes have the white and black socks markings on their ankles. They have a coarse tuft of hair on their throat, and their ears have a characteristic pugmark-like impression. Today, they have entered the fields around Panna Tiger Reserve. But fortunately, the crops have already been harvested, and the nilgai feed on the leftover in the fields. A jackal watches the nilgai, and the nilgai in turn rush ahead to face the jackal. The tall nilgai easily drive off the jackal, but the nilgai and jackal will both have to move on soon, as there is danger on the horizon. The farmers have lit the fields on fire to clear the stubble. This is a major cause of air pollution all across India. The leftover ash is thought to enrich the soil. In reality, the fire kills the soil that was alive with plant-benefiting microbes and organic matter that could have continuously enriched it. The nilgai move on to other fields close by. This is a major flashpoint for man-animal conflict when animals enter human areas, and then humans are stopped from entering forests to collect forest produce. Upset villagers are known to set forests on fire. This is one of the biggest challenges faced by foresters in India. The field director of Panna has pushed for major education programs for villagers and the direct participation and protection of the park, and so they understand that protecting forests is protecting their own future.
आज की डेट में मैं ये देख रहा हूँ कि वहाँ के कुछ गांव के ग्रामीण वो हमारे वन कर्मचारी से जुड़े हैं और वहाँ के लोग जो है उन्होंने अपने ग्रुप बनाए हैं और हफ्ते में एक ग्रुप वन रक्षक के साथ में जंगल में जा रहा है और उसके साथ पेट्रोलिंग कर रहे हैं।
कम्युनिटी के लोग खुद जाके फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट के साथ पेट्रोलिंग कर रहे हैं और फायर से और इलीगल पोचिंग से टाइगर बचाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
Within the forest, wildfires can destroy huge areas of wild habitats and take the lives of precious animals. To control the spread of fire from one section of the forest to another, the department creates long gaps of cleared forests called fire lines. These fire lines are routinely cleared and carefully set on fire so that the area becomes barren, and in case of fire, the fire does not jump from one section to another. A large male elephant, Ram Bahadur, and his companion are moving towards the river to check on P141 and her cubs. P141 is collared so that the department can keep a tab on her movements, but her radio collar has stopped working some time back. The department has decided not to intervene, as P141 has young cubs and the tigress roams only the safe core area of the forest. Even then, keeping track of all its tigers is the department's utmost priority. To look for the tigers, this time they engage other members of their team. They're elephants.
Elephants play a big role, especially when you are doing to deal with a reintroduction of a mega-carnivore. Because tigers cannot be handled like that. On foot is very difficult. If you are in a jeep, then there is a limitation to which extent you will be able to approach that tiger. With an elephant, it's quite an easy task. When you tranquilize a tiger, which is not radio collared or whose radio collar is failed, after hitting them with a dart, then you have to immediately follow them and see that when they take a rest, when they start sleeping, you are there nearby. Otherwise, searching a tiger without radio collar will be the real task. So in such a situation, light-weight elephants play a bigger role. You can just go very nearer to tiger, but the main point that we ensured in Panna was that we never disturbed and never affected the natural behavior of a tiger.
Currently, elephants play an important part in guiding the tigers back into the park when they stray out, keeping them safe from electric fences of neighboring fields, high-speed motorways, and other man-tiger conflict situations. The elephant camp is at Hinata Plateau, and to reach there, we climb Rangagati. Apart from its colorful rocks, Rangagati is famous for its cart-high trees. Cart-high are typically found in the Panna landscape. They create a blanket decoration across the slopes. A langur troop has settled on the trees. Some of the trees have berries, and the langurs can't resist them. A young langur shows us how much dexterity and balance these primates have, even while relishing the berries. The young langur manages to scratch an itch on its tail while balancing on the delicate branches. Even mothers with infants move around the branches with ease. We reach the elephant camp. Vatsala is the oldest elephant at the camp. She is in fact claimed to be the oldest captive elephant in India, 100 years old, say the Forest Department, and is said to have been brought from the Indian state of Kerala. In Panna, she has mostly lived a life in retirement. She has never had any calves of her own, but has a strong affinity to all the calves at the camp, proving to be godmother to them. Panna Tiger Reserve strives to take utmost care in the way they look after their elephants, especially at a time when across the world the humane treatment of elephants and even their use for captive purposes has come under scrutiny. Before leaving the Hinata Plateau's elephant camp, we pay our respects to Vatsala for her age and the matriarchal emotional support she has given the other elephants. Above the Hinata Plateau is Panna Tiger Reserve's highest plateau, the Talgao Range. Anyone lucky enough to stand upon the Talgao Plateau would find themselves transported to the grasslands of Africa. Talgao has a panoramic landscape, savanna plains, and herds of herbivores, transversing the large plateau as they move towards sources of water. It is here that the tabletop can actually be seen along with the spectacular expanse of Panna Tiger Reserve. The Talgaon Plateau has also seen the shifting out of human settlements. Out of reverence, only the shrines remain. The village has eventually been fully consumed by the forest. Summer is at its peak. At the elevation of the open savanna, with temperatures almost touching 48 degrees centigrade and the direct sun and hot wind hitting us, the summer heat becomes almost unlivable. But this highest tableland is quite green and teeming with life. It has a secret. It is full of water bodies, gorges and ravines, which hold water even in the dry season. But unlike this highest plateau, the lower Hinata Plateau does not have any real natural water bodies, and in the peak of summer, one would not expect to see wildlife here. But we are surprised to see wildlife in many parts of Hinata Plateau, especially during the cooler hours. The only probability could be the availability of water. Just a few months back, the field director, Mr. Badoria, and his team had gotten artificial saucers made so that wildlife would benefit from them.
पहले भी कुछ क्षेत्र में यहाँ पर पानी के लिए सौसर बनाए गए थे। इस साल काफ़ी बड़े तादाद में जहाँ पे पानी नहीं मिलता है वहाँ पर सौसर बनाए गए हैं और ये सौसर बनाने से स्थिति काफ़ी अच्छी हुई है। पहले जब पानी नहीं मिलता था तो जनरली जहाँ पे पानी होता था सारे वन प्राणी वहाँ पे एकत्र हो जाते थे। काफ़ी बड़ा एरिया वन प्राणियों से खाली रहता था, लेकिन इस बार सौसर बना दिए हैं, उनमें रेगुलर वे में पानी दे रहे हैं। तो जिस एरिया में पहले वन प्राणी नहीं रुक रहे थे गर्मी के सीजन में, इस बार वहाँ पे भी वन प्राणी पाए जा रहे हैं।
These saucers, like the other non-perennial natural water bodies, are regularly filled up by the department and have become the center of wildlife movement, from herbivores to birds to even tigers, especially witnessing tigress P141 making the climb to the plateau and settling in one of the saucers. Back at the Twin Junction Arena, the large tusker Ram Bahadur and his companion returned to check on P141 and her cubs. P141 is cooling off. Seeing the elephants, the tigress gets alert. She rushes to check on the proceedings. The elephants come forward. The inquisitive cubs run in different directions, and their mother comes out to investigate. But P141 knows the elephants pose no threats to her cubs and goes back towards the water with one of her cubs. Since their morning round, the elephant squad has had a tough task on hand. They're trying to photograph the cubs to update the department's records on the cubs at various stages of growth. But good luck trying to photograph two frisky cubs who get into a game of hide and seek. The elephants go towards the male cub near the river, but he is not a willing muse and rushes across the Ken River. The male cub waits for the elephants to move away. Once again, he is skittish about the crocs, and today the river's current is quite strong. He crosses back, and both the cubs eventually oblige with clear photos. It has been a successful day photographing the cubs. The elephant squad heads back to camp, even as P141 sinks into the river to beat the heat. The year's hottest days continue. A sloth bear also wards off the heat in a water hole in the other tigress P151's territory. A mother sloth bear and her two cubs have been caught by the heat wave before they could reach adequate shade and water. The family is exhausted, and they rest briefly under the bamboo clumps. One cub looks up, as if awaiting the yearly monsoon rains for some respite. Their mother chides them. She knows of a spot that can shield them from the harsh glare of the sun, a spot that would be both surprising and redeeming to us. She ambles towards it as the heat increases irritation levels. Before we know it, the family disappears into the old hunting cabin, Pakagada, a place that was at one time used as a hide to hunt wild animals is today providing the animal shelter. It has been a few days since tigress P151 has been seen in daylight. She is preferring to remain in an area called Nuni Judi, which is a small ravine running up the Ken River. The once bold tigress, who could travel up to 10 miles a day, now prefers to step out of the Nuni Judi only after dark. She covers just a short distance and returns before dawn. We suspect the change in her behavior could be because she has given birth to cubs and does not want to be seen leaving or approaching her den. We decide to check on her from the riverbank. But she has not been coming out, even at the river end of the ravine. The ravine looks perfect for a big cat with cubs. It's secluded, with plenty of trees for cover and unsuspecting prey roaming around. If she has had cubs, she would have to fear the other tigers, leopards, or even hyenas. Yes, Panna has hyenas that are glimpsed occasionally. She would then have to keep her cubs safe, and it could be almost 2 months before P151 begins coming out more often and openly during the hot daytime. It is the month of June. Only the monsoons can give some relief, and the monsoon should have arrived by now. Some showers come in, but the celebrations are short-lived, and it rains only for a couple of days, just enough to kickstart some life. The Crocodile trees that laid a barren siege over the forest during the dry months give out new leaves. The clouds have begun to rush in, but the rains are delayed. Once the rains come in, Panna will be transformed and water can flow into the Ken River. Let all rivers be like her, pristine and alive, unhindered in their flow as rivers are living entities. They have nurtured humans and all life to such an extent that rivers are truly like God. We get news that the department has confirmed that Queen P151 has indeed given birth to cubs. It has been an exciting introduction to Panna's famed landscape and its stunning array of wildlife. Panna has revealed to us so many of its treasures and has let us delve deep into the lives of its tigers, the result of the most successful tiger reintroduction program in the world. The astonishing comeback from 0 to more than 50 tigers in just 10 years is an ode to how our wildlife and forests can bounce back, where an audacious vision brought about one of the most successful mega-carnivore reintroduction programs in the world. We keep witnessing stories of our planet being under immense pressure. But this story of Panna Tiger Reserve tells us how humans can rise to the occasion and be true superheroes, making an unimaginably great difference to our planet. They give us hope and tell us that humans have it in their heart to protect wildlife and forests, as this is where we came from, our mother.
For me, the truth is tiger.